From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Wise, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority, LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Wise.
Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to have a weekly segment, like the introduction said, of just going over what the news in the weather is that is affecting our area here in the EPAWA coverage area here. And we're going to use this as a tool to look at some of the longer range stuff as we head towards winter. And once we get in winter, maybe look at some long range storm shots that are on the models and see if we can give it a little bit of either credibility or not as we head a little bit closer here. So we're going to start off with this segment today with talking about something that I really don't like talking about so much, and this is media sensationalism. You'll hear this a lot of times, if you're watching TV and you'll hear this big headline like, "Big storm coming, news at 11." Well, that's a headline. That's an attention grabber. It's the whole idea is so you tune in at 11 and watch the news. Well, the Washington Post did a blog this weekend, and it was basically attacking the Weather Channel on their headlines. Now, in their defense, they were talking about a nor'easter here that was going to affect the area. This is the one that hit this past week here, and really affected areas up here in New England. Not so much areas in our area. I mean, we did have some heavy rain, some windy conditions here, but it wasn't. It was kind of mild in comparison to what you think of what a true nor'easter is. So that was not the case once we got up here into New England. They had 3 to 6 inches of rain. So wind gusts reported up here to close to 60 miles per hour along the coast up here. So it was, by definition, a nor'easter up in this area. I think the Washington Post went a little bit too far here about the irresponsibility of the website or of weather.com in particular with this particular storm. But maybe they're basically venting their frustration over a period of time. And they really chose this storm to attack them on about its absurdity and irresponsibility in the media. This happens all the time. This is not a new concept. I really don't like the misleading stuff that they put out there because then it forces us to defend ourselves, and we get bombarded with questions. Oh, I heard so-and-so said this. What's your take on it? When it's really not a time we want to talk about it. So, there's some perfect examples we'll get into in a little bit later in the video here, but just make sure, this is a credible source. I will give that to the Weather Channel, and I don't have anything wrong with the Weather Channel except I understand the need for ratings and hits and things like that. Believe me, we're in the business too, but there's a responsible way to do it, and there's an irresponsible way to do it. And if you're going to put a headline grabber that says nor'easter to threaten millions, that's probably a little bit overkill. So, you got a lot of people that panic over the weather, that really get scared over weather, and it's just something that you really don't want to get into, because then it makes that, and they wonder why they say a meteorologist is the only job you can have, and be wrong half the time and still have a job. This is the kind of stuff that leads into that. This is the kind of that fuels that, and then we get grouped in that category too, which is unfair to the forecasters that actually do care and actually do forecast correctly. So from that standpoint, I see their point here for the Washington Post, and naming storms, naming winter storms, that's a little out of hand. I have a very staunch opinion against that. I really don't like that idea, but hey, it's their thing. It's what they want to do. It just forces us as forecasters to answer those questions then. When they ask me what is what's going on with Winter Storm Hercules this weekend, and I'm looking at them like, well, what are you talking about, Hercules? So it has no place in weather, and I understand that used to be weather was like a segment at the end of a news video. When you have the 11 o'clock news comes on, it would be at the very end, and you get about a 2-minute segment. And nowadays, it's like front page headlines. It's leading off the 11 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news, or it's one of the first things they talk about, and they spend a lot of time on it. The weather's a 5-minute segment now. I mean, when you're talking about a half-hour show, that's a big deal. So anyway, here's the great look at the nor'easter here. Again, this is what it looked like here in our area here. We did have some windy conditions here, and that's because you had a tight pressure creating between this system here, which is our system bringing the rain, and then high pressure here that was sitting over the Great Lakes. So you see these isobars here. These were very tightly packed isobars, which led to the windy conditions, but you see the rain wasn't really that big of a deal, except right along the coastline here. But then when it got up in New England, then we started getting into a bigger storm. Here's that storm here, and you can see the satellite image here from NOAA. This is really got itself wrapped up. And up in New England here, they had 3 to 6 inches of rain in eastern Maine and parts of Massachusetts. You also had wind gusts close to 60 miles an hour along the coast. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about a major nor'easter and you have that big headline grabber that says, look at me, go click here because this is devastating. Was it really that bad? It's really not. I mean, it was kind of mild in comparison to other nor'easters. And you see, like, this is the drought monitor for the northeast United States. These areas here needed the rain. This was a beneficial thing, if anything. Now the system was sitting right about here eventually once it got up to, once it moved to the northeast and out of our area. This is about Friday here. But you see where these yellows are. These are all below normal precipitation for this time of year, or through October 21st. So. Did it really hurt? No, not really. Was it a major nor'easter to threaten millions? No, it wasn't. So I mean, just with the wording, just be careful what you follow and what you see. It's just some things are unnecessary, and I would say especially so with social media. Now, I'm not going to call anybody out individually. You guys have seen these things out. This is a look at some maps that are posted on social media sites. You have to understand who is an expert and what is a legitimate site and what's not. A good way to see that is see. Just because a page has a ton of likes on the page does not mean it's a legitimate site. I can tell you from being the business owner of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC, when I started this business, we made a vow that this is going to be 100% organic, meaning all likes are because people wanted to like the page, and they may have shared some of our content over time, and it got others to like it as well. The word gets out. And then we just blow up. So we have close to 194,000 followers on Facebook, almost 13,000 on Twitter. Those are all organic. We never advertised. We never we never spent money to buy likes. I understand there's a way to do that out there. That's insane. So if you look at some of these pages and they're putting these big end of days maps, I can tell you right now, if I put one of these maps out here on Facebook, it would be shared about 10,000 times and there would be about 1,200 comments within an hour. It would be insane. So if you're looking at a site that puts one of these end of days maps out here and it's shared maybe 10 times and there's like 20 people commenting on it, it's probably not a legitimate site, even if it says they have well over 200,000 followers on Facebook. A lot of those are bought likes, fake likes, things like that. So just be careful what you read out there. There's certain sources. Again, I'm not going to call anybody out. You guys know who they are. Just be careful who is legitimate and who's not, because we don't put this stuff out. And there's a reason we don't put this out, because we're not trying to cause panic. We're trying to do the same thing the National Weather Service, that is protect life and property. Make everybody prepared for what's coming in a legitimate manner. If we think it's coming, we'll sound the alarms. We did that last year with that February 13th storm. Now, this is a picture that was on my social media site this week. This was of a tropical system that supposedly was going to come up Florida here and affect our weather on Halloween with a ton of rain and remnant tropical low. Obviously, that didn't happen. So if you're posting something at 10 days out or 12 or 15 days out, there's really no sense in doing that. I know everybody wants to know, well, hey, I'm going to have a wedding here in 2 weeks to go to. What's the weather going to be like? I might be able to help you out a little bit and steer you in the right direction about, it might be above or below normal. Right now, the models show this. Odds are it's going to change. So there's a reason why we do 6-day forecast on the website and our local forecast, and that's it. Because you're not going to get much more accuracy once you go 7 days and beyond. It just doesn't happen, and they change so much. They even change in the 6 days. But we have to go out a little bit. But we figured statistically that's the best chance. Now this is a picture that was going viral last year of the internet showing this massive snowstorm here in early February. Now we did get one around the 13th, but this was a different thing. This was showing the EPS. So the EPS is the Ensembles for the European model, and this is not to be used for snowfall. This is just not. You don't ever look at this and say, "Oh, wow, looks like we're going to get 30 inches of snow here, in this time frame around February 8th." I mean, and this was posted 3 weeks early, so there's no sense in that. All it does is cause panic. This never ended up happening. There was no snow at all. There was another storm that came separate from what this model was showing. A few days later, but that had nothing to do with what was shown here. So it's just a matter of hyping a system for no apparent reason and get everybody excited for no apparent reason. Speaking then we're going to segue into the Halloween snowstorm that supposedly is going to be hitting this area next week. We are not sold on this, and that's because there's certain things that The models have been showing some crazy solutions over the last couple days. A lot of that was due to the satellite data that was not coming into that was not integrated in the models for about a day or a day and a half. And since we had the disruption in service, these models run on algorithms that will accept satellite data and integrate those into the models, and then it will extrapolate what it thinks is going to happen in the future. But that did not happen this week. So the GFS has a system this week, and it still has it this morning, has a system kind of coming across like this here, producing some snowfall across northern New England. I can see some areas getting some snow here, maybe not this high, but it also has some light snows right here in our area too. Yesterday we were looking at the European model. We had to see some post this on our Facebook page. European model did something like this where it brought a system down here like this and really blew it up here off the coast right about here. And it had some big snows out here in central PA all the way up to almost Allentown and into Scranton, places like that. Now further east you had nothing, but the models are all over the place. They're very inconsistent. And people are latching on to one run of the model that's like 9-10 days out. I just don't understand it. I understand that the general public won't understand that, so I'm trying to educate everyone so they understand. Here's a look at that, what it looks like synoptically on this map here. Here's a low pressure moving through northern New England. It is suggesting up in this area there could be some snow, and I could see that happening. I could even see extreme northern PA getting into some snow. But the model also in the next frame, which isn't shown, actually brings this through as a cold front, and then behind the front there was actually some rain changing to snow. Again, wouldn't be surprised if you saw a few flurries, if it was timed perfectly. This is a thread-the-needle system. You get snow this time of year, it's really difficult. That system we had, the Halloween system in 2011, that was extremely rare. That was a 1 in 100 years type deal. So to expect something like that this early, you really have to side with no, it's not going to happen. And then you're going to have to find ways to prove that it will. And then there's nothing really showing me that this is going to be anything to write home about. And with the European model changing every single run, and again last night, the overnight run of the European model took it out like this and didn't do anything here. So again, it changes every single run. No sense latching onto an idea when it's going to change over time anyway. Here's our long-range outlook, and we have indicated here above average. Average or slightly above average in this period here we're talking about with the snow, and then again here above average as we get into the middle of November. Now this is average according to, or above average according to what normal is considered to be at that time of year. So it doesn't mean it's going to be 70 degrees. It does mean that if normal is 55 and you have a couple days at 60, that's above average. So how do we figure this out? We go to the ensembles. We like using the ensembles versus using the operational guidance. The ensembles are much more concise. An idea. It's not just so when you have the operational run of like say the European model. Here's the European model ensemble. If you're looking at the European model, you're looking at one run only. If you take the ensembles, it actually takes after this run completes, after the European model run completes, it'll run it an additional 50 times. Okay, it'll simulate the same run, start with the same data, and try to let the computer figure it out again. It's kind of like if you have a quarter and you're doing heads and tails. You flip it how many times, and you see which one it lands on, and you do it over. If you're going to get you're trying to find out which one is going to be more dominant than the other, you would do it over a period of 50 members. So you're looking at, if you have 50 of them instead of just one, it's going to be more accurate. So you get a more accurate idea of what's coming. So what they do is they take all 51 members and they're going to blend it together into a mean or an average. And this is what the ensembles are saying. The ensembles are saying that as we get into long range here, we're going to get more into a zonal pattern. Here's where we are right down here, and we're kind of on the warm side of things. These are heights, so all your cold air is up here, sitting up here over the polar regions, which is expected. But you don't see it coming down here to the United States too much, except in very brief shots. So you will have these buckles every once in a while, a little amplification, and you will have some cold air making it further south. But you see this here, this is showing this is the Pacific jet, and it is very fast. When you have a very fast Pacific jet like this thing's going to continue streaming across the country like this, and you're going to get a zonal flow. And we'll get into what a zonal flow is here in a second. Everything north of that jet stream is going to be cold, and then everything south of it's going to be warm, naturally. So if you have no amplification like this, you can't get those troughs. Not saying we can't. So we look into the end of the month here. The models are insisting this being in the big trough here. Here's a ridge. We're out here in the plains. See how it's going up here like this, and it kind of digs down. This is a trough. So a trough will allow cold air to come in from Canada. Okay, when you have a ridge, you get a pump up of warm air from the south, just like that. So that's where you get your warm temperatures, your cold temperatures. So this is an amplified pattern. This is it will allow the troughs and ridges that you would need to get these cold shots like this. Now, they would be transient, so they wouldn't stay cold and just lock in cold, but they will be brief, but they will just, if you can time something perfectly, you could get some snow out of it, like we showed in the previous graphics. But the most important thing we're looking at for sustained cold is snow cover, and this is what we're going forward with in the next couple of weeks here. Here's our current snow cover, and this is a look at what's the area we need to look at. This is northwest Canada that would affect our weather here. This is our current snow cover right here. We're kind of confined up by Alaska, the northern ranges here. Here's what we're looking at for model projection as we get to November 2nd. You see it starts increasing a little bit, but it's really not increasing a whole lot. So, you know, this is something we're going to have to watch over the next couple of weeks before we put our winter outlook out. I mean, what we're talking about here with this, with a snow cover, you know, if you have these cold shots come down from the Arctic regions, if it's coming over areas that are covered with snow, and you have some snow depth, they're going to stay cold as it moves south. But if you're moving over land, once you get down in this area here, it's going to moderate. That cold air is going to moderate as it heads south, so it won't be as cold as it heads south, and then it moderates, and then, you know, you really don't get as much cold as you thought you would have. Now, one thing we do have in our favor right now are the sea surface temperatures in the northern Pacific. Now, these have been declining some slightly, but they're still very, very warm. Sea surface temperatures are above normal in this area. Now, when I'm saying warm, again, it's warmer compared to what normal is supposed to be. So you have these sea surface temperatures above normal. This will promote a ridge in Alaska, and we might have the same thing we had last year as far as the negative EPO driving the pattern. And what that does here's a little quick graphic I did on that and what it can lead to. When you have warm SSTs up here, sea surface temperatures, the jet stream and the ridge is forced up here like this. When you have a ridge forced up, then it has to come down on this side. So you have a trough in the east, and you have cold air that's filtering in at the base of this trough here. So you get these cold shots here in winter. It's looking like that'll be the case again this year, but I don't think it's going to be one of those dominant patterns where you're going to have just these weeks upon weeks of a polar vortex taking control. I think it's going to be more transient. You're going to have some cold shots come in. You know, it'll be cold for a week, and then you'll have, 5-6 days, and it'll be warm for a couple days, and it'll be cold again, and it'll go back and forth. So you're not going to have that big, deep snow depth like we had last year, and you'll time these storms. You're going to have to time the storms around the transition periods between cold and warm, and again, warm to cold. So I think that's when you're going to have your chances at snow, a lot of overrunning events, and see these up here. You look up at Greenland, all the way down here. This in the North Atlantic is also very warm, so that would promote the idea that you could have a blocking this year, which we didn't have last year. What blocking does is allow these storms to slow down and strengthen off the coast and bomb, and then you can have some big snowstorms. So what we're looking at is we're going to have less frequency of storms this winter. This is what I think. Less frequency of storms this winter, but when they do hit, they have the potential to be bigger. Now, again, it's going to come down to timing of when we're going to be in one of these cold periods when that snow hits, what the track of things are going to be. So we're going to narrow this down over the next couple of weeks, and a big part of that is going to be your snow cover. So we'll have to see how this progresses. Right now, this isn't very impressive, but it wasn't impressive at this point last year either, and then all of a sudden November hit, and it just flipped like a switch. So we'll see how that goes as we go forward here. One more thing, if the Pacific jet is too fast, now you look at here, Pacific jet is not fast here, so you get these amplification like shown here, ridge here, trough in the east. If it's too fast, like it is right now, you get this zonal flow. And a zonal flow is a very fast west to east flow like this. So if you see it's like this, all your cold air is then stuck up here, and your warm air is stuck here. If you don't have any of this in the jet stream, you're not going to get these shots of cold air. So it's simple as that. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be like this all the time, but one thing we're worried about right now is the quasi-biennial oscillation, which drives the westerlies. We're going to have some. We're at to slow that down a little bit because right now the Pacific jet is way too fast, and that's in Canadian here on the Ensembles. You can see that coming in here. It's just way too fast. So if it's going to stay like that as we get into winter, we want to see this slow down and start to see some amplification because right now, this is no ridging here. You see, what's going to help us is these sea surface temperatures up here being very warm, which will hopefully allow a ridge to build and overcome that, and then you get this at least a little bit of amplification like this at the very least. But if not, if these disappear up here, or they continue to weaken, we might see a very fast Pacific jet this winter. There'll be a lot of disappointed people. come winter. So this is one of some of the things we're going to be watching for the next couple of weeks. This is the reason we did not put out a winter outlook yet. So hopefully we have this narrowed down in the next couple of weeks, and we'll give out the outlook here on November 10th is what we're scheduled for. Hope you enjoyed the segment. We're going to look at this every single week, maybe not go into this long. This is the initial one, so we wanted to go a little bit longer and show you some of the things we're looking at going forward. But if you have nothing to do on a Sunday morning, this will be a good thing to watch, and we'll give you give you a breakdown of everything that's coming up in the near future, and I'll try to keep it as factual as possible, throw my own opinions in there like I did this morning, and we'll go from there. But hopefully this will be a good segment, and everybody enjoy your weekend. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich. Have a great Sunday.